Hey everyone, finish watching the next Golan the Insatiable episode, Escape to Tooth Mountain. The Beaklers and Golan are at an arcade. Golan's making fun of Richard for getting checks from the unemployment office. Richard says that's because he works there, but Golan continues to belittle him. Dylan has a loose tooth, and Golan overhears Richard tell her about the Tooth Fairy. Golan imagines what the Tooth Fairy is like, possibly an ogre like him. Later, Golan insists to Dylan that he's going to meet the Tooth Fairy. Golan falls asleep and misses the Tooth Fairy. He makes hickeys on his arm and pretends he slept with the Tooth Fairy. Golan brags to the family about the Tooth Fairy, and Alexis asks him to prove it by bringing the Tooth Fairy to a restaurant that night her and Keith are going on a date to. Golan makes up a story to Dylan later that the Tooth Fairy thinks Dylan is a special needs kid and that Golan is taken care of and doesn't want to date a single dad. Dylan tells him he just needs another tooth and the fairy will come back. Golan stakes out a kid's house for the Tooth Fairy and mistakes the kid's mother for the Tooth Fairy. He kidnaps her and takes her to the restaurant, but she slips away. Golan takes one of Dylan's teeth to try and lure the Tooth Fairy again. That night, Richard gets his hand caught in a trap under Dylan's pillow. Richard doesn't want to tell Dylan the Tooth Fairy isn't real, so he says he was trying to steal the money. Dylan finds her tooth still under the pillow, so she and Golan make plans to lure the Tooth Fairy again. This episode's fine. It's nowhere near as good as the previous. It's one joke. Golan thinks the Tooth Fairy is real. Everything that follows is just shenanigans related to that. It's definitely the weakest episode of the series, I think. Golan joking that Richard is unemployed comes back at the end, which is a satisfying and unexpected follow-up to what seemed like random banter at first. The part with Golan and the kidnapped mother goes on a bit too long. Again, it's one joke. He thinks she's the Tooth Fairy, that's it. This episode still gets the random violence in, with Golan accidentally disintegrating a nest of baby birds when he tries to feed them, and later he rips off a waiter's arm and beats him up with it. Dylan doesn't really get that much to do this time around. Golan and Richard are the main focuses. If this episode was the norm for Golan the Insatiable, I don't think I would have become a fan. I don't think it would have built up a bit of a cult following the way it has with episodes like of this quality. It's good, it's fine, but I don't know, there's just something about this episode that doesn't really work. This feels like the type of thing that would come around like years and years later, or early on when they're still trying to find their footing, which I guess they are. So yeah, that's it for this one. Not a whole lot to talk about, so shortest episode, I guess. That's it for this one. See ya.
And then he touched her boobs, and her boobs had teeth.